As the night draws near and the world begins to rest, there's a divine moment waiting just for you. The moment you recite Surah Al-Mulk. It's not merely verses to be read, it's a promise whispered from heaven to your heart. Each word is like a soft wave washing away the heaviness of the day. As you recite, you can almost feel the tranquility descend, a calm that touches not just your mind but your soul. Surah Al-Mulk protects you when no one else can, lighting the unseen path that the eyes cannot see. It guards your sleep, cleanses your thoughts, and fills your night with a sacred peace that only Allah can send. And when you wake, it's not just another morning, it's a renewal of mercy, a sunrise dressed in Barakah, written just for you. When the sun slips below the horizon and the last light fades, the heart begins to whisper its tiredness. The noise of the day quiets, and what's left is a silence filled with truth. The truth of how much you've carried, how much you've tried, and how much you still long for peace. And in that sacred stillness, Allah sends the night, not as darkness but as a mercy. The night is His gentle embrace, wrapping your weary heart in a peace the world can't offer. The night is not just the absence of light, it is the presence of care. When you open your heart to Surah Al-Mulk, its verses become a blanket woven from divine protection. Every word you recite is like a whisper of reassurance, a reminder that the one who created the stars is watching over you, guiding you, forgiving you. This chapter doesn't just touch your lips, it settles deep into the folds of your soul, where faith has been waiting to be soothed. In the quiet of the night, the world forgets you, but Allah remembers you. Every verse you recite from Surah Al-Mulk becomes a conversation between your heart and its Lord. You don't need to be eloquent, your sincerity is enough. The one who hears the falling leaf hears the trembling of your voice. As you recite, peace descends softly, not as an emotion but as a presence, the kind that holds you even as you drift into sleep. Surah Al-Mulk is a guardian sent from heaven, a shield for the believer who trusts in its light. It protects not just the body that rests but the soul that wanders through unseen worlds in sleep. The Prophet, peace be upon him, described it as a chapter that intercedes, that pleads for its reciter until forgiveness is granted. Imagine that, your nightly remembrance becoming your companion in both worlds, your voice echoing beyond time in the language of faith. There is a reason the night feels so sacred when you fill it with Qur'an. It's as if every verse awakens something ancient within you, a knowing that you were created not to carry life alone, but to return to the one who carries all things. Surah Al-Mulk teaches the heart how to rest without fear, how to surrender without losing strength. Each verse is a gentle reminder that the same Lord who governs the galaxies governs your life with precision, mercy, and love. As your eyes grow heavy, the verses of Surah Al-Mulk keep watch. The angels surround you, drawn by your remembrance, carrying your words to the heavens. You may fall asleep, but your dhikr continues. Even in rest, your soul remains awake in the remembrance of its Lord. What a mercy that the act of faith before sleep becomes your protection while you dream, your light when you cannot see, your fortress when you are most vulnerable. There are nights when your heart aches, when silence feels louder than words, but Surah Al-Mulk turns that silence into sanctuary. Its verses remind you that you are never alone, not in grief, not in doubt, not in fear. The one who shaped the stars is closer than the beating of your own heart. And when you allow His words to enter your night, the shadows no longer feel heavy. They become reminders of His nearness, His gentleness, His care. When you wake, you realize something within you has changed. The worries that followed you to bed have softened. The heaviness of yesterday has lifted. You may not understand how, but your heart feels lighter, your thoughts clearer, your soul renewed. That's the unseen power of Surah Al-Mulk. It works in the spaces you can't reach, healing what you didn't know was wounded, repairing what only faith can mend. The night that wraps the heart in divine care is not an ordinary night. It is a sacred meeting between the soul and its creator. It's a time when you are seen in your quietest moments, loved in your weakest states, and guarded when you're unaware. It's a time when the heart that remembers is protected, and the believer who recites is written among those surrounded by mercy. The night then is not to be feared, it's to be cherished. So when the world grows dim and you prepare to rest, remember this: the night is not the end, it's the beginning of peace written by the most merciful. Let Surah Al-Mulk be the final whisper on your lips, a key to unlock serenity, a light to guide your soul, a bridge between your exhaustion and His eternal care. Because the heart that ends its day in remembrance never truly sleeps. It rests beneath the wings of divine love. There comes a moment each night when the world slows, and your soul begins to search for peace. The noise fades, but your heart still stirs, not with anxiety, but with longing. It's in that sacred space that Surah Al-Mulk enters like a soft, guiding light. Its verses don't rush or demand. They soothe, they heal, they remind. You recite, and the heaviness of your day begins to dissolve. Each word becomes a flame that warms the places in you that were once cold. Surah Al-Mulk is not merely a chapter of the Qur'an, it's a conversation between heaven and the weary heart. It teaches you that no darkness is ever truly dark for the one who carries divine light. When you let its words flow through you, it's as if you're inviting the stars themselves to settle within your chest. You start to realize that this isn't just recitation, it's refuge. Each verse builds a sanctuary around your heart where only peace is allowed to enter. The Prophet, peace be upon him, spoke of Surah Al-Mulk as a protector, one that stands as a shield for its reciter even in the unseen world. And so, as you lie down, the verses become your guardians. They hover gently over your sleep, warding off what the eye cannot see and what the mind cannot bear. You may close your eyes, but your remembrance remains awake, alive, glowing, ascending toward the one who never sleeps. There's something extraordinary about the stillness that follows when you recite it. The heart, which spent the day restless and heavy, begins to slow its rhythm. The whispers of worry fade, replaced by a quiet assurance, you are safe now. That safety is not from circumstance but from connection, from the realization that you've placed your trust where it was always meant to be. In that awareness, your heart finally rests. Surah Al-Mulk doesn't only guard your body, it purifies your soul. Its words cleanse the stains left by fear, regret, and distraction. Every verse you recite is like washing your heart with light. You start to remember that Allah's mercy is vast enough to hold all that you are, your mistakes, your hopes, your exhaustion, your dreams. In that remembrance, you stop struggling against the night. You begin to surrender into it. As you breathe between verses, you notice something subtle. The world feels softer. It's as though creation itself is listening with you. The angels surround, the stars hum their quiet praises, and your soul joins in their harmony. Surah Al-Mulk doesn't just fill your room, it fills the unseen. Its recitation becomes a bridge between you and the divine, a bridge built not of words but of love. For the believer, Surah Al-Mulk is more than protection. It's companionship. It stays with you when everyone else is gone. Speaking truths your heart had forgotten, it whispers reminders of the one who created every breath you take. And when you fall asleep after reciting it, your soul doesn't drift into darkness. It floats in remembrance, wrapped in mercy, surrounded by light. When dawn comes, you rise not just from sleep, but from renewal. The same words that guarded you through the night now guide you into the day. You find your heart lighter, your thoughts clearer, your spirit calmer. The world may look unchanged, but within you something sacred has shifted. You've tasted what it means to rest in faith, not in fatigue, to sleep in light, not in worry. Each night you recite it, Surah Al-Mulk becomes more than a habit. It becomes part of you. Its words begin to live in your heart, echoing even when your tongue is still. You find yourself remembering its verses at moments of fear or sorrow, and suddenly peace returns. It's a living reminder that the one who remembers Allah before sleep never truly sleeps unguarded. And so, as the night returns again, you welcome it not with dread but with gratitude. You prepare not just your body for rest, but your soul for renewal. You open the Qur'an, and with the first words of Surah Al-Mulk, you step once more into that ocean of calm. The world disappears, the light remains, and in that light you find what every heart is truly searching for, peace that does not end. There is a beauty that exists in the unseen, a world alive with light and mercy, moving quietly alongside your every breath. When you remember Allah before you sleep, you awaken that world. Angels descend, unseen yet near, wrapping the believer in a protection not born of walls or locks, but of remembrance. They are not imagined, they are sent, and they do not just stand beside you, they surround you, guarding the soul that whispers His name when the world grows silent. When you recite Surah Al-Mulk at night, the angels are drawn to your voice. They gather around like light attracted to light. Every verse you utter is a signal, an invitation that pulls mercy from the heavens to rest upon you. You may be unaware, lying in your room, but the unseen responds. Your remembrance becomes a fragrance in the spiritual realm, and the angels are its witnesses. The Prophet, peace be upon him, told us that angels record every act of goodness, but what's deeper is that they are also moved by it. When you remember Allah sincerely, they pray for you, they protect you, they stay near you. These unseen companions do not sleep, do not tire, and do not forget. Their very presence is a reflection of Allah's care, His promise that those who remember Him will never be left alone. There are nights when your heart feels heavy, when you feel unseen by people, unheard by the world. But in those moments, the unseen world is alive with attention. The angels hear what no one else does. Your quiet dhikr, your whispered prayers, your tearful confessions. They take those words and lift them to the heavens, presenting them before your Lord with honor and love. The night that feels lonely to you is in truth full of company. The angels that guard you at night are not distant beings, they are reflections of Allah's mercy in motion. They guard your sleep, shield your heart, and carry your remembrance as testimony of your faith. You may not feel their wings, but you feel their work. The sudden peace, the easing of worry, the calm that fills your chest as you drift into rest. That serenity is their gift, a sign that your remembrance has been accepted. When you recite Surah Al-Mulk, its verses become a command for your protection. The angels respond not out of duty but out of devotion to the one who devotes themselves to Allah. They become your unseen guards in both worlds, shielding you from harm here and interceding for you in the hereafter. What you recite in this world becomes a fortress in the next, and the angels are the builders of that eternal home. There's something sacred in knowing that your remembrance doesn't fade when your voice does. Even after your lips stop moving, the angels continue to repeat your dhikr, carrying it upward. The echoes of your prayer live longer than you imagine. Every subhanallah, every alhamdulillah continues to rise, a melody of faith sung by unseen wings. The angels who guard you are not sent because you are perfect, but because you are beloved. They are a sign that Allah sees your effort, not your flaw. Every time you turn back to Him, even after forgetfulness, they rejoice. They witness your repentance, your hope, your struggle, and they write it down as victory. They celebrate every return, every sigh of remembrance, as proof that light still lives in your heart. When the night deepens and fear whispers, the angels draw closer. They become a barrier between you and the unseen harms that wander in darkness. You may never know what was kept away from you, what danger, what sorrow, what unseen trial, but Allah knows. The angels fulfill His command to guard you, their wings a veil between you and what could have harmed your peace. And sometimes you'll feel it, not a sight, not a sound, but a stillness that feels safe. That moment of inexplicable calm, that breath of reassurance that comes out of nowhere, that's them. It's the unseen comfort of the angels reminding your soul that you are not alone, that you are being watched over by mercy itself. It's their way of saying, you are seen, you are protected. The angels are not just witnesses of your remembrance, they are shaped by it. They gather around gatherings of dhikr like stars orbiting a sun. Your home, when filled with the Qur'an, becomes illuminated in the unseen, a place of light so radiant that the heavens take notice. You may not see it, but the angels do. And to them, a believer's remembrance shines brighter than the stars in the night sky. There's a secret intimacy in knowing that your relationship with Allah draws not only His attention but the attention of His creation. The angels love what He loves. So when you remember Him in the stillness of the night, they gather out of love. Love for you, love for your devotion, love for the one you're remembering. In your humility, they see beauty. In your struggle, they see strength. Every time you choose remembrance over distraction, you're not just saving your soul, you're summoning light. You're building a shield that even you can't comprehend. The angels respond to that choice with reverence, because they see what you often forget, that the act of remembering Allah in a world of noise is one of the greatest forms of worship. You may not hear their voices, but your soul does. It feels their nearness when you are at peace, their distance when you forget. The more you remember, the more the unseen world responds. The connection deepens. The angels don't just protect you, they accompany you, guiding you toward what brings you closer to Allah. In times of fear, their presence becomes a whisper of courage. In moments of sadness, they soften your sorrow with unseen comfort. In moments of faith, they celebrate your resilience. The angels are not there to make life easier, but to remind you that you never face it alone. They are reflections of a mercy that never sleeps. And when you leave this world, those same angels will recognize you. They'll remember the nights your voice rose in remembrance, the tears that fell in solitude, the verses that echoed through your room. They'll greet you with the same peace that filled your nights, the peace of a soul that remembered and was remembered in return. Surah Al-Mulk teaches this truth through its rhythm, its promise, its light. It is more than protection, it is companionship across realms. Its recitation invites the unseen to walk beside you, angels whose wings are draped in the remembrance of your faith. They don't just guard your body, they guard your story. Even when you sleep unaware, they remain awake. They carry your dhikr through the night, presenting it as a fragrant offering before your Lord. When dawn breaks, they do not depart. They continue to record your gratitude, your breaths, your every act of devotion. You are never forgotten by the unseen. So when you close your eyes tonight and begin to recite, remember this: you are not alone in that room. Around you, mercy gathers. Above you, light stirs. Within you, peace grows. And surrounding it all are the unseen angels sent by the one who promised that those who remember him will always be remembered, protected, and loved. There are moments when peace doesn't come from silence, but from sound. The sound of Allah's words flowing through your heart like a river, finding its way home. Surah Al-Mulk carries that peace. It doesn't force it upon you, it pours it gently, washing over every anxious thought, every fear that lingered from the day. You don't just hear it, you feel it deep in the spaces where words cannot reach. It's as if each verse was written to remind you that the one who owns the universe also holds your heart. When you open Surah Al-Mulk at night, you're not merely reciting. You're surrendering, you're saying, "You're Malik, you are the king, I am in your care." In that declaration, something shifts inside you. The burdens that once felt immovable begin to lift. The world no longer feels like a weight on your shoulders, because you remember that it was never yours to carry. The verses of the king teach the soul what it truly means to rest, not in forgetfulness, but in trust. The peace that comes from these verses is not loud or dramatic. It's subtle, steady, like a soft tide that never stops touching the shore. It moves quietly through your thoughts, through your breathing, through your stillness, until even your restlessness begins to bow before it. You begin to see that peace was never lost. It was simply waiting to be remembered. Each verse of Surah Al-Mulk is a declaration of sovereignty, a reminder that nothing happens outside His will. The winds, the stars, the turning of the night, your heartbeat, all of it is orchestrated by His command. And when your heart absorbs that truth, fear begins to fade. Anxiety gives way to awe. You find yourself whispering, "I am safe because I belong to the one who never loses control." There's something transformative about knowing that the same verses that describe Allah's power also cradle His mercy. He is the king, yes, but He is also the comforter. The one who governs galaxies also listens to the tremble in your voice when you pray. Surah Al-Mulk teaches you to see strength and tenderness existing in the same divine hand. That realization softens the edges of every worry, replacing it with calm acceptance. When you recite it before sleep, it's as though the world stands still for a moment. Your thoughts, your regrets, your fears, all pause. The verses wrap around your soul, like a lullaby written by heaven itself. You don't need to understand every word to feel its power. The heart understands what the tongue cannot express. In that stillness, you are not just reading the Qur'an is reading you. Peace flows most beautifully when surrender becomes easy. And that's what Surah Al-Mulk teaches: how to let go with grace. It reminds you that you are seen, heard, and loved by the one who shaped your story. Every trial, every delay, every unanswered prayer begins to make sense beneath the light of these verses. You begin to trust that every not yet is mercy in disguise, every silence a form of protection. The king described in this surah is not distant or unreachable. His majesty is matched by His intimacy. He is above all, yet closer than your own breath. When you recite his words, that paradox becomes your comfort. The Almighty who rules the universe also rules your heart with tenderness. That knowledge becomes a peace that no hardship can shake. The verses of the king carry a rhythm that steadies you. You find your breathing aligning with their cadence, your pulse softening as you speak them aloud. The Qur'an has a way of restoring balance. Where chaos once lived, harmony returns. You may begin the night restless, but by the time you reach the final verse, your soul feels lighter, your spirit renewed. Every repetition of Surah Al-Mulk deepens your awareness of Allah's care. It's as if the more you recite, the more the words enter you, not just into your memory, but into your being. They become part of how you think, how you see, how you respond. The peace it brings doesn't end with the last verse. It lingers, following you into sleep and greeting you again at dawn. This chapter isn't only about protection from what you can't see, it's about healing from what you feel too deeply. Its verses hold a divine rhythm, a balance between majesty and mercy, justice and love. When the world feels unfair, it reminds you of the one who is perfectly fair. When life feels unstable, it reminds you of the one who never wavers, and in that remembrance your soul finds its steady ground. To recite Surah Al-Mulk is to remind yourself that peace isn't earned, it's gifted. It's given to the one who remembers, to the one who turns to the king with sincerity. Allah doesn't ask for perfection, he asks for presence. When you show up with your tired heart and trembling faith, he responds with calm. A calm so deep it silences the noise of everything else. Sometimes you'll find yourself reciting without expectation, and yet peace will come anyway. It's the beauty of his generosity. The Qur'an doesn't wait for you to be ready, it meets you where you are. You can come to it burdened, broken, distracted, and still it heals. The king does not turn away those who come seeking peace. He welcomes them, covers them, and renews them. The more you reflect on the verses, the more you see that peace is not the absence of pain, it's the presence of purpose. Surah Al-Mulk doesn't promise a life without trials, it promises perspective within them. It shifts your gaze from the temporary to the eternal, from fear to faith, and suddenly the same storm that once frightened you becomes the place where you learn to trust. When you close your eyes after reciting it, your sleep feels different. It's no longer just rest, it's refuge. You are no longer falling into the unknown, you are resting in remembrance. The angels guard you, the verses surround you, and your soul, once restless, finally breathes freely. The peace that flows from the verses of the king becomes the melody of your night. You'll notice it in the morning, how you wake softer, calmer, with a sense of quiet assurance. The day ahead doesn't feel heavy, because the night before was filled with light. That is the unseen work of Surah Al-Mulk. It prepares the soul not just to sleep in peace, but to live in it. It builds a foundation of faith that lasts beyond the moment of recitation. Even in your hardest seasons, these verses remain a constant. They are reminders that no matter how chaotic the world becomes, the order of Allah never falters. You can lose plans, people, or peace of mind, but you will never lose His sovereignty. Knowing this, you find the courage to release control and trust in His design, and that release becomes the beginning of true tranquility. The peace that flows from the verses of the King is not something you chase. It's something that finds you when you remember who He is. It arrives quietly, like a soft breeze through an open window, reminding you that you are safe under His command. Every breath you take while reciting is a form of surrender, and every surrender brings more serenity. So tonight, when you open Surah Al-Mulk, don't just recite. Listen. Let the words move through you like light moves through water. Let them touch the parts of you that no one sees, the wounds you never voice. And as you close your eyes, let peace descend like a promise from the King Himself, that whoever remembers Him will never be left without His calm, His care, or His endless light. There is a stillness that doesn't come from the absence of noise, but from the presence of trust. It's that quiet space inside you where fear finally releases its grip and surrender begins to bloom. In that stillness, faith finds its home. It's the place where the soul no longer needs to understand everything. It simply rests in the knowing that Allah does. It's not a stillness you can force, it's one that arrives gently when the heart stops fighting and starts remembering. Faith is not born in noise, it's born in the quiet moments when your heart breaks, and you choose to believe anyway. When you sit in the silence of your own uncertainty, faith whispers, You are still held. The stillness that surrounds you at night is not emptiness. It is an invitation. Allah creates it so that you can finally hear Him. Not through sound, but through peace. That's where Surah Al-Mulk enters. Not just as words but as a calm that wraps around your spirit. The stillness of the night is sacred because it mirrors the stillness faith needs to grow. It strips away distraction, ego, and the noise of the world. It leaves only you and Allah. It's in that space that you begin to see how faith was never about perfection or certainty. It was about returning again and again to the one who never leaves. Surah Al-Mulk reminds you of this truth with every verse, that the one who commands the heavens is also guiding your heart toward Him. Sometimes faith finds its home, not in joy, but in exhaustion. It's in the moments when you have nothing left to offer but a whisper. When you lie beneath the night sky, eyes heavy, heart weary, and you still choose to say, Ya Allah, I trust you. That small act of remembrance becomes the foundation of something unshakable. It's not the strength of your faith that matters, but the sincerity of your surrender. The stillness of faith is not lifeless. It's alive with awareness. It's knowing that even when nothing seems to move, Allah is moving everything for your good. The stillness is not stagnation. It's preparation. It's where the soul gathers strength before the next dawn. In those quiet moments between reciting Surah Al-Mulk and drifting into sleep, your heart is being renewed, built quietly by His mercy, brick by unseen brick. Faith doesn't shout, it whispers. And its whisper is strongest when everything else grows silent. The world may measure worth by noise and progress, but Allah measures the heart in stillness. When you sit in that sacred quiet, you begin to see how every unanswered prayer was answered differently, not with words but with wisdom. That's where faith finds its home, not in having what you want, but in knowing who you have. Surah Al-Mulk teaches you that the one who created the galaxies is also tending to your heart. That realization brings a peace deeper than understanding. It reminds you that the same Lord who holds the stars in balance holds your life in perfect measure. And when you believe that, your heart stops chasing control. It finds stillness, and in that stillness, faith finally exhales. Faith is not the absence of doubt. It's the decision to believe even when doubt lingers. The stillness that follows remembrance is where that decision takes root. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to know how the path will unfold. You only need to rest in the one who already knows. The night is His classroom, and the stillness is His lesson, teaching your heart that peace is not found in knowing, but in trusting. When you recite Surah Al-Mulk, it's as if the verses themselves are teaching your heart to slow down. Every word is a gentle reminder that the one who created light also created night, not as a void but as a balm. The stillness of the night becomes a reflection of divine wisdom. You need darkness to see the stars, and you need surrender to feel faith. In the stillness, you start to recognize the subtle signs of Allah's care. The timing of events, the people who cross your path, the calm that arrives when you thought it never would. These are not coincidences, they are messages, and only a still heart can hear them. The peace that flows from faith is not something you chase, it's something you receive when you stop running. The stillness where faith finds its home is a place of honesty. It's where you stop performing, stop pretending, and simply show up as you are. You sit with your fears, your flaws, your hopes, and you hand them all to Allah. That act of baring your soul is not weakness, it's worship. The stillness is not a pause in life. It's where life becomes sacred. Sometimes you'll find yourself restless, unable to sit still, afraid of what silence will reveal. But remember, the heart that avoids stillness avoids healing. The peace you seek doesn't live in distraction, it lives in remembrance. When you sit with your discomfort long enough to pray through it, you find that it begins to soften, and in that softening, faith begins to unfold like dawn after a long night. There's something deeply healing about trusting the unseen in the stillness. You stop trying to control what's not yours and begin to breathe again. You realize that faith was never about outcomes, it was about connection. Surah Al-Mulk helps you return to that connection night after night. Each recitation is like a hand extended from the heavens, pulling your heart gently back toward peace. When faith finds its home, your perspective shifts. The storms that once terrified you now remind you of His power. The delays that once broke you now teach you patience. The unanswered prayers no longer feel like silence, They feel like guidance. You begin to see how even waiting can be worship when it's filled with trust. That's the stillness where faith lives. The calm between what was and what's coming. The stillness doesn't promise the absence of struggle, but it gives you strength to endure it. You may still face uncertainty, loss, and pain, but something inside you remains unmoved. That unshakable peace is not from the world, it's from the verses that taught you where to find home when everything else feels uncertain. Surah Al-Mulk becomes your nightly reminder that the one who owns the heavens also owns your heart. When you rest in that truth, your life begins to slow down. You stop rushing, stop forcing, stop fearing. You begin to move in rhythm with Allah's timing. Unhurried, unafraid, unbroken, the stillness becomes not an interruption to your journey, but part of it. Faith no longer feels like effort, it feels like ease. The stillness where faith lives is not lonely. It's filled with presence, divine, unseen, but deeply felt. You begin to crave that quiet space, not because it isolates you, but because it reminds you of who you belong to. You realize that your heart doesn't need the world's validation when it has Allah's attention. And when you wake after a night of stillness, your heart feels lighter. The same challenges remain, but you face them differently, not from fear, but from faith. You've built a sanctuary inside yourself, where His remembrance echoes louder than worry. And every time you return to it, you are reminded that faith was never lost. It was simply waiting for you to be still enough to hear it. So tonight, when the world grows quiet, don't run from the stillness, step into it. Let Surah Al-Mulk guide you into the peace you were always meant to find. Let the verses wash away the noise, the doubt, the exhaustion. Because in that stillness, that sacred pause between heartbeats, faith comes home. And when faith comes home, peace stays. There's something sacred about the last moments before sleep. That quiet space between wakefulness and surrender. It's in those moments that the heart reveals its truth. The world fades, the noise settles, and what remains is the conversation between you and your Creator. When you let remembrance fill that space, when Surah Al-Mulk graces your lips, the night transforms from routine to renewal. You no longer fall asleep to escape the day, you fall asleep to meet peace. A heart that remembers before it sleeps is not the same as a heart that forgets. The one that remembers rests differently, lighter, calmer, safe beneath the protection of divine words. It's as if each verse of Surah Al-Mulk wraps around the soul like a warm covering, shielding it from the unseen, reminding it that it belongs to the one who never sleeps. That remembrance becomes the bridge between exhaustion and serenity. Sleep is not simply rest, it's surrender. It's an act of trust. Closing your eyes, knowing you may never open them again, yet feeling no fear. For the believer, that surrender is softened by remembrance. When you end your day with the words of Allah, your sleep becomes a continuation of worship. The angels stay near, your soul ascends lighter, and your heart, once burdened by worry, finds renewal in the peace of His name. There is a reason the Prophet, peace be upon him, encouraged remembrance before sleeping. It's because the night is not just for rest, it's for return. The body sleeps, but the soul travels, and what better journey than one begun with the words of your Lord? When you fall asleep remembering Him, your soul moves not through darkness but through light. It is protected, guided, and held until dawn greets it anew. A heart that ends its day in remembrance is a heart that is never abandoned. Even in unconsciousness, it is alive with dhikr, alive with love. It is the kind of heart that wakes up renewed, not just physically rested but spiritually revived. It greets the morning differently. Gratitude comes naturally. Calm lingers longer. The world feels less heavy because remembrance has already done its healing overnight. The power of Surah Al-Mulk before sleep lies not only in its protection but in its purification. Its verses cleanse the heart of the day's residue, the regrets, the noise, the pain. With every recitation, you release what was and prepare for what will be. It is a spiritual exhale, a quiet letting go. And in that letting go, your soul breathes. You wake not just from rest, but from renewal. Sometimes, life exhausts you in ways sleep alone cannot fix. The mind keeps racing, the heart keeps aching, the body feels heavy with thoughts left unspoken. But when you whisper the verses of Surah Al-Mulk, something begins to shift. You're no longer trying to silence your thoughts. You're inviting peace to settle over them. You're no longer trying to forget your pain. You're allowing faith to transform it into wisdom. Remembrance before sleep is not just for the pious, it's for the tired, the broken, the searching. It's for the one who's had a hard day and needs reassurance that they're still seen by Allah. It's for the one who doesn't have the strength to make long dua, but still whispers his name. It's for the one who wants to end the day with light, even if the day was filled with darkness. That whisper, that effort, that moment, it's enough. When you recite Surah Al-Mulk, it's not just you speaking, it's your soul returning home. The verses become more than sound, they become connection. You can almost feel the distance between heaven and earth shrinking. You remember that sleep is not separation, it's an opportunity to draw closer. Even in stillness, even in dreams, Allah's care remains constant. The beauty of remembrance before sleep is that it sanctifies the ordinary. The same bed becomes a place of worship. The same routine becomes an act of devotion. What used to be just sleeping becomes a spiritual retreat. The Qur'an doesn't just guide you through the day, it guards you through the night. Every recitation becomes a shield, every word a light that travels with your soul. A heart that sleeps remembering Allah is a heart that no longer fears tomorrow. It knows that the one who cared for it through the night will care for it through the day. It no longer wakes with anxiety, but with assurance. That's the renewal of remembrance. It plants certainty where fear once lived. It whispers to the soul, whatever comes, you are not alone. Surah Al-Mulk reminds you that life itself is a trust, and rest is part of that trust. Allah doesn't only ask you to strive, He asks you to rest in His remembrance. Because renewal doesn't happen through effort alone, it happens through surrender. It happens in those quiet hours when the heart, finally at peace, lets itself be mended by the words of its maker. The renewal that comes from remembrance isn't loud or dramatic. It's subtle. The way dawn breaks slowly, the way light seeps gently through darkness. You wake up with a sense of calm that you can't explain. The same problems may remain, but the heart carries them differently. It's lighter now, softer, anchored by faith that was restored in the silence of the night. When you wake after a night of remembrance, you carry traces of that peace with you. The day ahead feels more meaningful because the night before was blessed. You find yourself more patient, more grateful, more aware. That's the quiet miracle of Surah Al-Mulk. It doesn't just change how you sleep, it changes how you live. It teaches the heart to rest in faith so it can rise in strength. Even the simplest act, closing your eyes while reciting His words, becomes an act of love. It's a conversation between the created and the Creator that continues even in sleep. You fall into His care and wake within His mercy. That is the rhythm of faith, remembrance before rest, renewal before dawn. Every night becomes a small resurrection, a reminder that after every surrender comes a new beginning. The heart that remembers before sleep is the heart that wakes ready to begin again. No matter how heavy yesterday was, the mercy of the night erases what needs to be released. You wake not as who you were, but as who you are becoming. Someone molded by peace. This kind of renewal cannot be measured by hours of sleep. It's measured by the softness of your soul when you rise. It's the peace in your eyes, the patience in your tone, the quiet faith that whispers, Allah was with me while I slept. That awareness is what turns rest into rebirth. The heart that sleeps remembering is a heart that lives awake. It doesn't drift through life unaware. It moves through each day conscious of divine care. It sees blessings where it used to see burdens, lessons where it used to see loss. Because remembrance has rewritten its perception, everything now carries the fingerprint of mercy. So tonight, when you lay your head down, let remembrance be your final act. Let Surah Al-Mulk be the song your soul carries into rest. And when morning comes, don't be surprised if you wake lighter, calmer, changed. Because the one who sleeps remembering never truly sleeps in darkness. They rest in light and they rise renewed by love that never ends. There are moments when the heart trembles under the weight of uncertainty, when you don't know what awaits tomorrow and you don't know how to hold the pieces of today. Yet even in that fear, there exists a sacred promise. Allah never leaves the one who trusts Him. The protection written for the believer is not always visible, but it is always present. It is woven into every verse, every breath, every unseen mercy that surrounds you when you remember Him at night. When you recite Surah Al-Mulk before sleep, You're not simply reading, you're stepping into a divine shield. Each word forms a layer of light, a boundary of mercy that guards both your body and your soul. The Prophet, peace be upon him, described it as a chapter that intercedes, that pleads on behalf of its reciter until forgiveness is granted. Imagine that. Your nightly remembrance standing as your defender in both worlds. Trust is not built on understanding, it's built on surrender. The one who truly trusts Allah doesn't need to see how things will unfold. They simply rest knowing that the one who writes their story writes with compassion. And that trust, that quiet certainty, is what summons protection. The angels are commanded to guard those who sleep, remembering. The darkness becomes a cloak, not of fear, but of divine care. Protection in Islam is not about walls or weapons. It's about faith. It's about the heart that chooses peace even in chaos, because it knows that nothing happens outside Allah's permission. When you trust Him, the storms may not cease, but you find yourself walking through them untouched. Your calm becomes your shield, your patience becomes your armor, and your remembrance becomes your refuge. Surah Al-Mulk was revealed as a reminder that sovereignty belongs to the one who owns all things. When you recite it, you're affirming that truth, declaring that power belongs not to fear, not to circumstance, but to Allah alone. That declaration reshapes your spirit. You begin to see that trust is not weakness. It's strength that flows from knowing you are guarded by the King himself. The protection that comes with trust is not always in what you gain, but in what you are spared. There are harms that never reach you, accidents that never occur, griefs that pass you by, all because Allah wrote safety in your path long before you knew to ask for it. You'll never know how much He's protected you from. And that's the beauty of His mercy. His care works in silence, unseen but certain. When you place your trust in Allah, fear begins to lose its grip. You start to move differently, not recklessly but peacefully. You stop overthinking outcomes and start surrendering them. The believer who trusts doesn't walk blindly. They walk illuminated by faith. Surah Al-Mulk becomes that light, reminding you that the same Lord who commands the heavens to move in balance will never let your life fall out of His control. Sometimes protection doesn't mean being spared from hardship, it means being preserved through it. Allah doesn't always remove the fire, but He cools it. He doesn't always silence the storm, but He anchors you within it. That anchoring, that inner peace amidst outer chaos, is one of the highest forms of protection. It's not the absence of struggle, it's the presence of divine nearness. Trust begins where understanding ends. The heart that trusts Allah learns to rest even when it can't see the plan. It whispers, "Isis, you know," and that's enough. That whisper becomes its fortress. You may not know what tomorrow brings, but you know who brings tomorrow, and that knowing is what transforms anxiety into assurance. The one who recites with that belief never truly sleeps unguarded. There are angels who are commanded to watch over the one who remembers Allah. They stand at your head and your feet, covering you from what you cannot see. You might think you're alone in your room, but in truth you are surrounded by mercy. Every verse of Surah Al-Mulk you recite is a signal, a call that summons light to your side. You rest and the unseen world begins its work of protection. Sometimes Allah's protection looks like delay. You pray for something and it doesn't come, and in the waiting your heart aches. But trust teaches you that delays are not denials, they are shields. Allah knows what timing would harm you, and He withholds not to punish, but to protect. You learn that His no is often the most merciful yes you could ever receive. Surah Al-Mulk reminds the believer of accountability and consequence, not to instill fear but to awaken wisdom. It teaches you that everything in existence submits to Allah's will, willingly or unwillingly. When your heart submits willingly, you align with the peace that governs the entire universe. That alignment itself becomes protection, your heart beating in rhythm with His decree. Trusting Allah doesn't mean you stop feeling pain. It means you stop being ruled by it. You still grieve, but you grieve with hope. You still cry, but your tears fall in the hands of the one who collects them. And while the world may not understand your strength, it's not because you have none, it's because your strength comes from the unseen. From verses that guard, from angels that surround, from a king who never sleeps. The protection of Allah is a promise written for the one who believes, not just in His power but in His love. When you recite His words, you are not asking a distant deity for help. You are speaking to the one who is closer to you than your own heart. That closeness is the essence of safety. You can't be harmed when you're held by the most merciful. Sometimes protection feels like silence, no sign, no vision, no change, yet even that quiet is mercy. It's Allah teaching you that His care is not always loud. It doesn't need to announce itself to be real. The same way air protects life without being seen, His mercy surrounds you without needing proof. That realization turns fear into gratitude. Every night, as you recite Surah Al-Mulk, you are renewing a covenant of trust. You're saying to Allah, V10, I give you this night, this breath, this heart, and in return, He gives you peace. He protects not only your sleep, but your awakening. He ensures that your tomorrow begins with mercy, because you chose to end your today with faith. There's a tranquility that descends when you know you're guarded. It's not arrogance, it's peace. The believer who trusts Allah walks through life knowing that protection is not earned, it's gifted. It's written not because you're perfect, but because you believed. That belief is your shield, the unseen armor that carries you through every uncertainty. The more you trust, the more you see signs of His care. You notice how what once overwhelmed you no longer does. You notice how what once frightened you now strengthens you. This is how Allah protects, not always by changing your surroundings, but by transforming your heart until it's untouchable. The one who trusts is always safe, even when the world is not. The protection written for you is not in stone. It's written in light. It's inscribed across the verses you recite, the prayers you whisper, the patience you practice. It's renewed every time you choose trust over fear. Every time you surrender your plan for His, that light grows brighter, guarding you from within. So tonight when you recite Surah Al-Mulk, let trust be your intention. Let every verse be a key unlocking unseen safety around you. Let every word remind your soul that you are watched over by the King of all creation, because the one who remembers and trusts never sleeps alone. They rest beneath the protection that has always been written for them. The beauty of dawn is not just in its light, but in what it carries, the quiet blessings of the night that came before it. When a believer ends their day in remembrance, their dawn is no longer ordinary. It's touched by serenity, softened by mercy, and colored by divine nearness. The peace that began in the stillness of the night doesn't disappear with sunrise. It rises with you, becoming the first breath of your new beginning. The night is where the soul finds its secret strength. When you recite Surah Al-Mulk before you sleep, you plant seeds of tranquility that bloom with the morning light. You may close your eyes in weariness, but your remembrance does not rest. It continues its journey, ascending through unseen realms, carried by angels who pray for your peace. And when dawn arrives, you feel it. Not in sight or sound, but in the calm that greets your heart. Every dawn tells a story, not just of a new day, but of what the night held. For some, the night is escape. For others, it's communion. When you fill your nights with remembrance, the morning becomes sacred. It's as though every ray of sunlight has touched your heart before touching the sky. You wake not just alive, but aware that you were cared for while you slept, protected by the words that never lose their power. The blessings of the night are quiet blessings, unseen yet deeply felt. They don't arrive with thunder or light. They move like whispers of peace across the soul. When dawn comes, you notice that something inside you has shifted. The same world awaits, but you meet it differently. You are no longer rushing into the day, you are walking through it with grace. That grace is what the Qur'an leaves behind when it has touched your heart. Surah Al-Mulk is more than protection through the night. It's preparation for the morning. It doesn't just shield your sleep, it shapes your awakening. The verses that covered you in darkness now guide you in light. You find yourself moving slower, speaking softer, and seeing deeper. The remembrance that held you in rest now holds you in purpose. It's not just a new day, it's a renewed heart. When you start the night with Qur'an, dawn becomes a reflection of your faith. The peace you carried into sleep becomes the peace you carry into the world. You become a vessel of calm, a walking reminder that those who remember Allah are never empty. Even as life rushes forward, the night's serenity remains within you, a hidden blessing that shields you from the noise of the day. The believer's dawn is not just an awakening of the body, but of the soul. It's the moment you open your eyes and realize that Allah gave you another chance, another sunrise to seek, another breath to be grateful, another opportunity to grow closer to Him. You understand that you didn't wake by coincidence, you woke by decree, and that awareness fills the morning with meaning. When you've ended your night with the Qur'an, the morning feels lighter, the worries that once met you at sunrise now seem smaller, quieter. It's as if the peace of the night still lingers around you like a fragrance that refuses to fade. That's the blessing of remembrance. It doesn't just visit, it stays. It weaves itself into your day, transforming ordinary moments into acts of gratitude. The blessings of the night are not measured by hours of sleep, but by the state of your heart when you wake. You may not have rested long, but if you rested in remembrance, you will rise in renewal. The body may tire, but the soul that remembers never does. It wakes full of faith, full of calm, full of quiet strength that no trial can steal. When dawn rises after a night of dhikr, the world feels different. The air seems purer, the silence gentler. You feel as though Allah has wrapped your day in the same peace that wrapped your night. Even the smallest blessings, a warm cup of tea, a soft breeze, a moment of laughter, feel magnified. That's the light of remembrance, turning the ordinary into extraordinary. Sometimes the night is where tears fall, where worries spill, where hearts ache in silence. But if you meet that night with remembrance, you'll find that your tears are not wasted. They water the seeds of peace that bloom with dawn. You may have slept with heaviness, but you wake lighter because Allah collected what burdened you while you slept. He replaced it with mercy. The one who remembers Allah before sleeping does not just rest, they are transformed. Every verse of Surah Al-Mulk settles into the soul, teaching it to trust, to hope, to surrender. So when dawn rises, the heart rises with it, not restless but ready. It greets the morning with the same softness that comes after forgiveness. That is what it means to wake in Barakah, to wake cleansed, calm, and close to Him. The blessings of the night are carried into the day through gratitude. The believer who begins their morning with Alhamdulillah is not simply thanking Allah for life, they are acknowledging His mercy through every unseen moment of protection that came before. They know that the peace they feel now began long before they opened their eyes. It began with a verse whispered in the quiet of the night. Faith doesn't end when you fall asleep. It continues while you rest. The angels record your remembrance, the Qur'an guards your soul, and Allah's mercy watches over you. That's why dawn for the believer is not just light, it's evidence. Evidence that you were loved, that you were seen, that you were cared for even when you could not see it. That realization fills every sunrise with awe. Each morning becomes a gentle reminder that Allah's mercy never pauses. The night carried you, the dawn renews you, and the day will test you, but through it all His care remains. The rhythm of faith continues, remembrance, rest, renewal. That cycle is not just routine, it's divine design. It's how Allah rebuilds the heart daily, quietly, mercifully. When dawn rises with the blessings of the night, you learn to stop rushing toward tomorrow. You begin to live slower, deeper. You start noticing beauty in things that used to feel small. A smile, a sunrise, the sound of birds, the warmth of prayer. These are not coincidences. They are traces of Barakah left behind by the night's remembrance. Even when life feels uncertain, the one who ends their night with Qur'an wakes with trust. They walk into the day not empty-handed, but carrying unseen strength. They don't know what the hours ahead will hold, but they know who holds them. That is the true blessing of the night, not what it gives you, but what it teaches you to wake unafraid. And when hardship comes, as it always does, that remembrance becomes your anchor. You'll find yourself remembering how the night once healed what the day broke. You'll recall how every time you placed your heart in Allah's care, He returned it softer, wiser, and whole. That memory becomes your hope, the assurance that no night is wasted when it ends in His name. When dawn rises after a night spent with Allah, it's not just another sunrise, it's a renewal of your covenant with Him. You've been chosen to see another light, to walk through another day of purpose. That awareness transforms your life from routine to sacred rhythm. You no longer just wake up. You rise, carrying peace from the night into every moment of the day. So when tonight comes again, and the world grows quiet, remember this: every verse you recite, every tear you shed, every whisper of dhikr, it travels beyond you, it meets the dawn before you do. And when morning breaks, it returns as blessing. Peace in your chest, light in your steps, and gratitude in your heart. That is the secret of a believer's dawn. It always rises carrying the blessings of the night. As the world dims and the stars quietly take their places in the sky, there's a sacred invitation waiting for you to close your day not with noise but with remembrance. Surah Al-Mulk isn't just a chapter to be read, it's a journey the soul takes every night from fear to faith, from chaos to calm, from forgetfulness to presence. Each verse becomes a lantern, lighting your path from this world into the unseen, guiding you through rest, protection, and renewal. When you let its words fall from your lips before sleep, you're not just reciting, you're surrendering, you're placing your heart in the care of the one who never sleeps. And in return, you are wrapped in a peace that the world cannot offer, a peace that shields you while you rest, that strengthens you as you dream, and that greets you again with the morning light. The barakah that rises with dawn isn't random, it's a reflection of the choices made in the quiet hours before sleep. When you choose remembrance over distraction, reflection over restlessness, the night becomes your teacher. It shows you that every verse you recite is a seed, and every dawn a garden blooming with mercy. You wake not just alive but aligned, your heart steady, your soul anchored, your purpose renewed. So tonight, before you lay your head down, let the world go. Let your last words be his words. Let Surah Al-Mulk remind you that you are never alone, never unprotected, never unseen. The one who governs the stars governs your life, perfectly, tenderly, mercifully. Sleep knowing that, and you will rise with a heart touched by barakah and a soul drenched in light.